My name is Isaiah Neal and my pronouns are he, him. I am a curriculum developer and a videographer for Imagine. I have been with Imagine for almost 3 months now. I have been born and raised in Edmonton and I am an only child. So I think those two things have definitely shaped my worldview. Being in Edmonton, I believe that you see a lot of homeless people as well as the issues going on with the Indigenous communities and fighting for freedom of speech and fighting for a voice in Parliament and in government, to have those people seen and to have those people supported in the way that they should. So I think in that sense, even being an only child, you're kind of by yourself, you're fending for yourself. So just seeing that, this world has a lot of people that are not heard. This world has a lot of people that need to be heard, and it's our job who recognize that and have the ability and the power to change that, to take that on upon ourselves and to make something happen, make something change, so those people can be heard. So I got involved with Imagine thanks to a coworker, Madison. We were both students at the University of Alberta and we became friends, and she told me about Imagine and it was right up my alley. We were both passionate about mental health. Imagine was all that and more, and so I thought this was a great place to kind of be in a career field that maybe I would one day get into full time. As well as just do what I already was doing, which was spreading word and awareness around mental health, but then doing it at the next level and being part of developing curriculum and being part of active change in Edmonton for organizations, and all those kinds of things. So yeah. Being a student, I think obviously you don't have a career fully yet. You likely probably don't really have a final job or the job that you really want. And so you're always on this drive, on this motor. And I think that drive and motor goes beyond just school or finding a job, but it goes into every aspect of your life. You will do things that older people that are maybe more settled down won't do. So I think bringing that to Imagine, having that drive, having that go-go attitude can definitely bring some fire and some pump to the team. I also think being a student, especially in sciences or psychology, that research is a big thing, and research is a big thing that Imagine uses to do the designing for our trainings. It's how we update our trainings. We do everything on factual evidence. There's no hearsay, there's no our opinion. We know exactly what works and what doesn't based on the research. So I think research is already a thing that a student does, and bringing that to Imagine is just more ammo in the guns. So I think my time at Imagine is really going to affect me as a student in a positive way, not so much in terms of how I study, or my course or path, but just understanding that knowledge means nothing if you don't apply it. And I think at Imagine we don't just focus on the words on the page, but we really ask ourselves, how do the words on the page affect the world? How do we apply that to our day-to-day lives? So I think that's really important, and I think going back to school, that I can have a greater appreciation for what I'm learning, that it's not just about getting through the class, as much as it may feel like that sometimes, but really understanding what I'm learning and how it applies outside of my classroom. How does this affect people in the world? How can I use this knowledge to help someone or to create something or do something amazing in this world? I am currently in a bachelor's degree for general science. My major is bio, my minor is psych, and after that I plan on taking a master's course in genetic counseling. In case you don't know what that is, genetic counseling is counseling but for your genetic health. So it's to help people make informed genetic decisions, understand their own genetics, understand the genetics in their family, for various reasons. It could be you're about to have a newborn baby and you're concerned about the baby having autism or Down syndrome or diabetes or something, cancer, anything. Maybe not so much more for an infant, but if you're worried about cancer running in your family as you grow older and you want to know your risks, that's also something else that a genetic counselor can help you with. So I plan on doing genetic counseling after my genetic counseling master's program, and I hope that everything that I've learned at Imagine, everything that I've learned and advocated for in mental health, I can just take that and harness that and use that as I, help clients and support people to see them more as not just a client or someone that needs a specific need, but someone that has gone through, probably a lot of restless nights and a lot of worry and whatnot before they've even stepped into the clinic for whatever reason, big or small. But I see where they're coming from and I can kind of nurture that indirectly. I'm definitely not a therapist or a counselor at that point, but everyone deserves respect, and I think as simple as it may seem, sometimes we don't always know how to give people the proper respect or the proper space to be and breathe in terms of sharing important information like genetic information that's pretty sensitive. So. First and foremost, it is lacking big time. Especially as a university student, whether you like it or not, you're going to be faced with stress, and that's going to have an impact on your mental health. So one way or another, you're going to meet up with your mental health. The question is, how are you going to deal with it, and how are you going to interpret those feelings that you're having? Are you going to downplay it? Are you going to make a real concern out about it? Are you going to make too much of a concern about it that it runs your whole life and you don't know how to cope with it? Then the questions are, how are you going to cope with it? Are you going to stay silent about it, or are you going to ask for help? Do you know where to ask for help? So there's all these questions and whatnot that you get slammed with them when things go wrong, and it's unfortunate because if you knew those things before they went wrong, then you wouldn't have such a hard time trying to keep your head above water. So I think mental health is definitely an important thing for students, and not just students, of course, but just people in general. And students are people, and sometimes we forget that as students, that as much as studies and academics may run our life, we're running after a degree to have a job, to make a living. We're at the end of the day, we're people, and people need that care for themselves. They need care for their mental health. So I play for the Golden Bears football team. I have played for over 5 years, and I've played football since I was 10 years old. So I've been playing for over 12 years. So yeah, it's been a really long time. I graduated high school and I committed to the Golden Bears football team in 2019, and I've been playing ever since. So in terms of mental health and athletics, it's definitely hard, especially when you add in the word, student athlete. You're dealing with your school and your athletics, and that alone causes a lot of stress. For me, the way that I really kind of interpret that stress is that you're being graded every single moment of your life. You're being graded in school, you're being evaluated, you're handing in assignments, you're getting grades back. For sport, you're in practice, you're being evaluated, you're being graded. You go to a game, after the game you're evaluated, you're graded. During the game you're evaluated, you're graded. So all that stress to perform in two completely opposite categories. I mean, one seems to be all like strength and speed and grit, and a lot of that has to do with what you can physically handle as well as what you can kind of mentally handle and push yourself through. And then you have school, where it's like I can no longer, try and run from point A to point B as fast as I can, but I really have to find a way to memorize information or try ways to, understand concepts, right? So it's two different skills, and I'm always being evaluated and always being graded, so that's really difficult. The other thing is that with sport, you're always kind of taught to have this, pick up your teeth and run, keep going, never stop kind of attitude. And when it comes to mental health, that's really the opposite. When we're down and we're hurting and we need time, we're told to take a break. But in a game, when you're down and you're hurting, you can't always stop the whole game and take a break. You can be pulled off to the sideline, but you're still stuck in that situation. If you have a bad day, you still gotta go to practice, right? So it's really hard. So I think I've really just been pushed to learn how to cope with my mental health in really different ways. For a lot of people, they're able to take a big, chunk of time, and by big chunk of time I mean 30 or an hour, right, to kind of read a book or do what they want to do. But for me, it's very hard to do that because I physically do not have the time in my day to always sit down and do 30 or an hour. So whether it be when I drive in my car to school or to practice, I blast my music and I have a jam session in my car. That's 20 or 15 minutes where I could just be sitting in my car, focusing on the road, stressing about stuff, right? I use that time to enjoy life, get crazy, even if it's by myself. I don't care about the other drivers to my left or my right. I'm, caring for my mental health. So I think just ways like that, I've really just had to really think outside the box and figure out what does and doesn't work. And I think it's been really frustrating to do it like that in a trial and error kind of way of like, hey, let me try this. And it's like, nope, it's not giving me what I need. And I have to just keep trying. And it's like, I'm super thirsty for that drink of water for my mental health. And it's like, I gotta find where that watering hole is. And then finally I find it, but it's like, I'm just barely making it, barely holding on. So it's really hard, but it's just a battle, and life is a battle. And I'm really grateful even for the ups and downs because it's taught me a lot about myself. It's taught me a lot about life.